Hello once again. Welcome to my home kitchen here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Justin Johnson, CEO and founder of Sustainable Kitchens. We're continuing our Back to Scratch Pantry Makeover video tutorial series. Now, each one of these videos is going to explain specifically how to use each one of your recipe templates. So this is session 2. If you saw session 1, we talked about the one pot meal. And so for session 2, it's going to be pretty similar. The only difference is that this is going to be baked in the oven instead of on the stove. So instead of a soup or stew, this is going to be a casserole or a bake. Let's do it.
Now, once again, remember the role of the pantry. Your pantry is there to provide a wide array of different options and different flavors and different components for your dishes. And once we've figured out what those ingredients are, remember about mise en place. Before we start to actually cook anything, we want to make sure that everything that we're going to need to make the dish is cut, chopped, and roughly measured. Now, today we're going to be making really just a slightly different version of a one-pot meal. This is a casserole. Now, what really is the difference between, say, a soup or a stew and a casserole? There really is only one main difference, and that is the amount of liquid you use. Also, the way you cook it. So a casserole is going to be done in an oven rather than on the stove, and a lot of times we'll have some sort of crunchy, crispy top. But we're still going to use that same order of action. So remember your fats, your aromatics, your proteins, your vegetables, your grains and starch, your deglazer, your punch of flavor, your liquid, and your garnish. All of those things are going to play a part. We're still going to bring it together on the stove, but it's going to ultimately end up in a casserole dish, and we're going to bake it in the oven. Now remember, once again, before we do anything, we want to make sure that our pan is nice and hot, and that we're using a high heat rubber spatula rather than a metal spatula or a whisk or tongs, because that's going to beat up our pan, and sometimes that coating is going to start to flake away, or we're going to scratch our stainless steel pans. So once we have a hot pan, just like with the one pot meal, we're going to sweat our aromatics. So in this dish, we're going to be using some onions and some garlic. We just want to cook those long enough to bring out some flavor. Next, we're going to drain our potatoes that we've allowed to sit in some water so they don't discolor. Now we're going to add that right to the pan with our onions and our garlic. Next, we'll add our canned diced tomatoes, also which have been drained. And then we're going to add our already cooked canned chicken. Now, of course, if we were using raw chicken, we would be starting this whole process by browning off that chicken. In this case, we're going to add it later because it's already been cooked. Next, we'll add a little bit of salt and pepper, and then we can add our punch of flavor. Whatever seasoning sounds good to you. I'm going to use a little Italian seasoning, and I like a little kick, so I'm going to add in a little dried red chili flake. Now, this is the part where it really separates from being a stew or a soup to being a casserole. And that is because instead of adding enough liquid to cover all of the ingredients that we're cooking, we're going to add about a third of that amount. And the purpose of that is to make sure that there's enough liquid to cook the potatoes, but not so much that it's a soupy or stewy consistency. Now we're just going to take some fresh basil and cut it up really gently so that we keep that nice green flavor, and we'll add that into the mix right before it goes into the oven. Finally, we will transfer the mixture into a casserole dish or baking pan. And I'd like a nice little brown crust on top for a little added texture and color. So we're going to add a little Parmesan cheese to top it off. Finally, we'll slide it into the oven and bake it for 40 minutes at 350 degrees. And just like that, we have an easy, simple, fast, inexpensive, and delicious homemade casserole.